The soft clink of crystal glasses echoed across the dining room as everyone turned their attention to Emma. She didn't even have to try. She just lifted her hand slightly, and just like that, all eyes were on her. "Big news," she said, smiling like she already knew how this would go. I didn't look up. I already knew. I got called for an interview at Sterling Enterprises. For a second, there was silence. Then, "Oh my God!" my mother gasped, her fork nearly slipping from her hand. "Sterling Enterprises? That's huge." My father leaned back, impressed. "That's the biggest tech company in the city." Emma gave a small, casual shrug, like it was nothing. But I knew that look. She was enjoying every second of this. "They reached out to me personally," she added, brushing her hair back. "Senior marketing director position." Of course they did. Things like this always happened to her. Perfect grades without studying. Perfect opportunities without chasing them. And perfect praise without ever asking for it. I quietly pushed the food around my plate, hoping, just for once, that no one would notice me. But that never happened in this house. Not when Emma needed someone to be compared to. "This is what a real career looks like," my mother said proudly, her eyes still on Emma. Then slowly she turned to me. Her smile didn't disappear. It just changed. Sharper. Colder. "You should learn from your sister, Sarah," she said. "Maybe she can help you find something better." Better. That word always hit the same way. Better than what I was doing. Better than my little consulting work. Better than building something on my own. Because apparently being your own boss didn't count as success in this family. "I'm doing fine, Mom," I said softly. I should have known better than to speak. Emma let out a small laugh. "Oh, come on," she said, leaning back in her chair. "You're still pretending that your consulting thing is a real career?" I stayed quiet, but inside something tightened. "How long has it been now?" she continued. "Years. And you still don't have an actual job." My father placed his glass down. "Emma's not wrong," he said calmly. "You're 32, Sarah. It's time to get serious about your future." I gripped my fork a little tighter. For a moment, I thought about saying everything. About the deals sitting on my desk. The companies I had turned around. The contracts worth millions. The empire I had built quietly while they were busy underestimating me. But what was the point? They had never listened before. Why would they start now? "My work is going well," I said, keeping my voice steady. Emma didn't even let me finish. "Work," she smirked. "You work from your apartment and barely make enough to survive." Then she leaned forward slightly. "Meanwhile, I'm about to land a senior director role at Sterling." She paused. Just long enough. "Did I mention the salary?" My mother leaned in immediately. "How much?" Emma smiled. 250,000. Base. Plus bonuses. That did it. My mother looked like she might faint. My father's face lit up with pride. And me. I had to stop myself from laughing. Because just a few days ago, I had signed off on a quarterly report that made that number look small. "When's the interview?" I asked. Emma glanced at me, surprised I even spoke. "Monday morning," she said confidently. "But honestly, it's already mine." "Really?" "The CEO wants to meet me personally." "Of course." I looked down at my plate again, hiding the small smile that almost escaped. I knew exactly why. "Well," I said, standing up slowly, "good luck." Emma let out a quiet chuckle. "What? Got a client finally?" she teased. My mother sighed, clearly disappointed in me. "When are you going to stop this phase, Sarah?" she said. "Your father could have helped you get a proper job years ago." "A proper job?" I nodded slowly, picking up my bag. "You're right," I said. For the first time that night, they all looked at me. Maybe they thought I was finally giving up. Maybe they thought I was finally accepting defeat. Maybe it is time for a change. They smiled. I didn't, because they had no idea what was coming next. That night, as I drove back to my apartment, I let the silence settle in. The city lights reflected across the glass buildings, stretching endlessly into the distance. Funny thing was, they still thought I lived in a small rented place. They had no idea about the penthouse, or the private garage, or the office waiting for me at the top floor of Sterling Enterprises. 10 years. That's how long it had taken. 10 years of being ignored, dismissed, compared. I still remember the day I told them I wanted to start my own consulting firm. They laughed. Actually laughed. When I got my first big client, they called it luck. When I started acquiring struggling companies, they didn't even notice. And 5 years ago, I made my biggest move. Sterling Enterprises. They never saw it coming. Not the acquisition. Not the transformation. And definitely not the name change. Sarah Mitchell. My mother's maiden name. A name they never paid attention to. A name that was now printed across magazines, headlines, and business reports. And still, they had no idea. My phone buzzed. A message from Emma. You should visit Sterling sometime. I'll give you a tour after I get the job. I smiled. A slow, quiet smile. If only she knew. I parked the car and stepped out, the cool air brushing against my face. Tomorrow was Monday. Tomorrow, she would walk into that building, thinking she owned the place. And tomorrow, she would finally see the truth. Monday morning arrived with a strange kind of excitement. Not nervousness. Not pressure. Something else. Something sharper. I stood inside the private elevator, watching the city slowly come to life through the glass walls. Cars moving. People rushing. Another normal day for everyone else. But not for me. Today, everything was about to change. The elevator doors opened smoothly onto the top floor. My floor. The moment I stepped out, the quiet hum of a powerful company surrounded me. Good morning, Ms. Mitchell. Diana's voice was calm, professional, but there was a hint of curiosity in her eyes. She knew something was different today. Good morning, I replied, placing my briefcase on the desk. Your 9 a.m. interview candidate has already arrived, she said. She's been waiting in the lobby for about 20 minutes. I glanced at the clock. 8:40 a.m. Of course she was early. Emma always liked to make an impression. Let her wait, I said simply. Another 10 minutes. Diana nodded, trying not to smile. And how is she behaving? That question earned a small laugh. Well, Diana said. She's asked for coffee 3 times, mentioned at least 5 executives she knows, and... She paused for a second. And she told the receptionist that her sister is a nobody. I didn't react immediately. I just walked toward my office window, looking out over the city. Same Emma. Nothing had changed. Perfect, I said quietly. I placed my bag down and looked around the office. Clean. Sharp. Every detail exactly where it should be. Has she noticed the lobby? I asked. Diana shook her head. No. She's too busy talking about herself. I almost smiled. The walls downstairs were covered with press features. Articles. Interviews. Magazine covers. My face, right there in plain sight. But Emma never noticed things that didn't revolve around her. She never had. Diana placed a file on my desk. Her resume, she said. I double-checked everything. I opened it slowly. Neat. Polished. Impressive, at first glance. And? I asked. Diana crossed her arms slightly. Half of it is exaggerated. Some of it, completely false. And the rest, teamwork she claimed as her own. I nodded. Exactly what I expected. Send her up at exactly 9 o'clock, I said. Then I paused. And Diana? Yes. Make sure security is recording everything. Lobby, elevator, all of it. She didn't ask why. She already understood. Of course, she said and stepped out. At exactly 9 a.m., my office phone buzzed. Ms. Carter is here, Diana said formally. Send her in. A few seconds later, the door opened, and there she was. Emma walked in with confidence. Head high, shoulders straight, like she already owned the room. Her heels clicked against the floor as she stepped inside, scanning the office quickly. Then, she saw me. Everything stopped. Her expression froze. The confidence disappeared. Sarah, she said, her voice barely steady. What are you doing here? I leaned back slightly in my chair. Calm. Composed. Good morning, Emma, I said. Please have a seat. She didn't move. I'm here for an interview, she said quickly. With the CEO. Sarah Mitchell. I gently turned the nameplate on my desk toward her, letting the words sit there. Clear. Unavoidable. Sarah Mitchell. CEO. That would be me, I said. Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable silence. Emma slowly sat down, like her legs were no longer fully under her control. This isn't funny, she whispered. I'm not joking. Her eyes moved around the room, like she was trying to find something that would prove this wasn't real. This is impossible, she said. You work from your apartment. You're just a consultant? I finished calmly. I leaned forward slightly. I own this company, Emma. Her breath caught. I have owned it for the last 5 years. The room felt smaller, tighter, like the truth itself was pressing down on her. I picked up her resume. Now, I said, my tone shifting slightly, more professional, more distant. Let's talk about your application. She swallowed hard. You can't be serious. Oh, I'm very serious. I flipped through the pages slowly. Let's start with this claim, I said. You increased your department's revenue by 200%. That's true, she said quickly. Too quickly. I nodded, then reached for another document. Because according to your company's official report, the entire department grew by 30%. I looked up, and most of that came from a campaign you initially rejected. Her face turned pale. That's not. Developed by your junior team, I continued calmly. The same team you later took credit for. She stared at me, speechless. You've been investigating me, she said. I investigate everyone at this level, I replied. We have standards. I let that word hang in the air. Standards that value truth, not performance. Her hands tightened in her lap. For the first time in her life, Emma had no control over the situation. Just then my phone buzzed again. Diana's voice came through. Ms. Mitchell, your parents are in the lobby. They're asking to come up. Of course they were. Emma must have called them the moment she saw me. I leaned back in my chair. A slow breath. Send them up, I said. Then I looked at Emma. I think it's time, I said quietly, for a proper family conversation. Her confidence was completely gone now. Sarah, about last night. I raised my hand slightly. Don't, I said. I'm not interested in apologies that come from fear. She went silent, and for the first time, she actually looked small. A few moments later, the door opened again. My parents walked in quickly, confused, tense. Sarah, my mother said immediately. What is going on? Why are you? She stopped mid-sentence. Her eyes landed on the office, the desk, the view, then slowly on me, sitting behind it. This is the CEO's office, my father said sharply. I stood up slowly, letting the moment stretch, letting them feel it. Yes, I said calmly. It is. The room went completely silent. Not the normal kind of silence. This one felt heavy, like the air itself had stopped moving. My parents stood there, frozen. Emma sat across from me, her hands slightly shaking. And for the first time in my life, no one had anything to say. I walked slowly around the desk, my heels echoing softly against the floor. Every step controlled, every movement deliberate. This, I said calmly, gesturing around the office, is where I work. My mother blinked, still trying to process it. No, this doesn't make sense, she whispered. You never told us. I let out a quiet breath. I tried. They didn't respond. Because deep down, they knew it was true. I told you about my first client, I continued. You called it luck. I told you when I expanded, I said, looking at my father. You said it wasn't stable. And when I stopped explaining, I paused. You stopped asking. That one hit hard. Emma shifted in her chair, avoiding my eyes. 5 years ago, I said, turning slightly toward the window, I acquired Sterling Enterprises. My father's head snapped up. That's impossible. I almost smiled. It's not, I said simply. I spent years preparing for it. Quietly, carefully. I walked back to the desk and pressed a button. The glass wall behind me lit up, turning into a massive screen. Charts. Numbers. Growth curves rising higher and higher. This is the company under my leadership, I said. Every number you see, every deal, every expansion. I turned to face them. That's me. My mother slowly sank into a chair. All of this is yours? Yes. Emma finally spoke, her voice weak. Why didn't you tell us? I looked at her. Really looked at her. Would you have listened? She didn't answer. Because she couldn't. I picked up her resume again. The same paper she walked in so proudly with. Now, I said, my tone shifting back to business. Let's finish your interview. She stiffened. Sarah, please. I ignored it. This achievement, I said, pointing at the page, is false. I flipped the page. This one is exaggerated. Another page. And this one was never yours to begin with. Her eyes filled with tears. Real ones. Not the dramatic kind she used before. These were different. You don't understand, she said quietly. Everyone does it. No, I replied calmly. Everyone doesn't. I stepped a little closer. You just thought no one would check. My father stepped forward, trying to regain control. All right, that's enough, he said. We can talk about this privately. I shook my head slowly. No, that single word stopped him. You lost the right to handle this privately, I continued. Last night, when you sat there and let her tear me down, when you told me I needed help to build a real career, I let the silence stretch again, because this time, they needed to feel it. I pressed another button. The door opened and Diana walked in, followed by a man in a dark suit. My legal advisor, I said calmly. Emma's breathing got heavier. "What is this?" she whispered. I didn't look at her. "Explain," I said to him. He nodded slightly. "Providing false information at an executive level," he said professionally, "can lead to immediate rejection and possible legal consequences." Emma's composure finally broke. "You can't do this," she said, her voice shaking. I looked at her. "Can I? Or do you think the rules don't apply to you?" She had no answer. Again, my mother stepped forward now, her voice softer. "Sarah, we're family." I almost laughed. "Family?" I repeated, like when she took credit for my work in school. "Or when you both ignored everything I built because it didn't look impressive enough?" I shook my head. "No, that's not family." I placed the resume back on the desk. "Your application is rejected," I said clearly. Emma closed her eyes, tears falling freely now. "And I will be informing your current company about these findings." That was the final blow. She didn't argue, didn't fight, because deep down, she knew it was over. I turned to my parents. "You should take some time," I said calmly, "and think about how you treated both your daughters. One you praised without questioning her. The other you dismissed without understanding her." My father looked away. My mother said nothing. For once, they had no defense. I walked back to my desk and sat down. "I have a meeting to prepare for," I said. "Diana will show you out." No one moved at first. Then slowly, they turned and walked toward the door. Emma still crying. My parents silent. The door closed behind them. And just like that, it was over. A few minutes later, Diana walked back in quietly. "Are you okay?" she asked. I took a deep breath. Then another. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something different. "Yeah," I said softly. "I am." Months passed. Things changed. Emma lost her position. Her career started over from the bottom. My parents? They disappeared from their perfect social circles. Reality has a way of doing that. As for me, I kept building, kept growing, kept moving forward. One day I received a letter, handwritten, from Emma, an apology, a real one, not perfect, not polished, but honest. For the first time she understood. Another letter came later, from my parents, asking for a second chance. Not demanding, not judging, just asking. I kept both letters, not because I had forgiven them, not yet, but because they reminded me of something important. Success isn't about proving people wrong. It's about proving yourself right. A year later, I sat in the same office. Same desk. Same view. A magazine lay in front of me. My face on the cover. A simple headline. The Power of Quiet Success. I smiled slightly. Because this time, there was nothing left to prove.